turns out that 200 years ago in England, at every ball you could meet not only aristocrats but also hungry zombies. Let's find out what rich gentlemen and ladies in fancy dresses are doing to these monsters. At the beginning of the 19th century, many zombies appeared in England. Detachments of armed soldiers guarded all palaces and estates around the clock. One of the fiercest zombie hunters was Colonel Darcy. He was constantly traveling and looking for new methods to deal with these bloodthirsty monsters. Mr. Darcy arrives at the Countess Featherstone's estate and informs her that there is an infected person among her guests. The Countess says it's impossible. Mr. Darcy sits down at one of the tables and takes out a test tube with live flies. These insects can quickly find zombies. Flies land on the face of a local aristocrat, Mr. Kingston. Colonel Darcy immediately attacks him. He saves Countess Featherstone's estate from infection. But there is one problem. Mr. Kingston had a niece named Annabelle. This sweet girl managed to get infected from her uncle and turn into a zombie. Oh my, we're getting to know the Bennet family. It consists of Mr. Bennet, Mrs. Bennet, and their 5 daughters. Elizabeth, Jane, Kitty, Lydia, and Mary. All these girls studied martial arts in China, and they also know weapons techniques well. Mrs. Bennet learns that a big ball is about to take place, and a rich aristocrat named Mr. Bingley will be present. The woman hopes that one of her daughters will be able to marry him. The girls laugh, but actually some of them really want to find a husband. The Bennet sisters are getting ready for the ball. Corsets, stockings, a beautiful dress, and a lot of weapons. That's what they need. These girls must be not only beautiful, but also incredibly strong and brave, in order to fight a whole horde of hungry zombies if necessary. There are a lot of people at the ball. Everyone is dancing, having fun, and not thinking about monsters. Mr. Bingley soon appears. He is handsome and very rich. The young aristocrat is accompanied by his 2 sisters, Caroline and Louise. Colonel Darcy is also coming with him. He is also incredibly rich, but is known for his bad temper and incredible pride. Mr. Bingley looks at sweet Jane Bennet with loving eyes, but Mr. Darcy likes the serious Elizabeth more. Bingley meets Jane and invites her to dance. Darcy doesn't like dancing, so she stays away. Bingley suggests that his friend invite Elizabeth to dance, because she is also very beautiful. But Mr. Darcy replies that this girl is not good enough for him. Elizabeth hears their conversation and gets very angry. She runs outside and starts crying. Zombies appear behind her. It's Mrs. Featherstone, and she wants to tell Elizabeth something important, but she doesn't have time because a bullet is flying at her. It was Mr. Darcy who came to her rescue. Soon, there are more and more zombies at the ball. Panic begins among the people. Elizabeth and her sisters heroically join the battle against the monsters. They fight so fiercely and bravely that Darcy and Bingley are thrilled. Darcy admits to his friend that Elizabeth was the best in this fight, and now he really likes her. In the evening, Elizabeth and Jane gossip about men and at the same time have another workout. You can't relax for a single minute. Elizabeth says she hates proud and narcissistic people like Mr. Darcy. The next morning, Jane receives an invitation to tea from Mr. Bingley. The girl wants to ride in a carriage, but Mrs. Bennet puts her daughter on a horse. She hopes it will rain, and Mr. Bingley will have to leave the girl in his house. That's what happens. But the rain is not the biggest problem. To make matters worse, zombies appear on the road and Jane falls off her horse. She grabs a gun and a knife and is desperately fighting for her life. The girl wins and notices 2 more zombies. It's a mother with a child. The next day, Elizabeth arrives at Mr. Bingley's estate. It turns out that Jane got to her fiancé, but she started having a fever, and the girl was quarantined. No one knows if it's a common cold or the result of a zombie bite. The doctor examines Jane, while Mr. Darcy releases his flies again. However, none of them land on the girl. The doctor confirms that Jane is not infected. At night, Elizabeth looks out the window and sees Mr. Darcy practicing in the courtyard with his sword. Morning is coming. The entire Bennet family arrives at Mr. Bingley's estate. Elizabeth is not happy about this at all and demands that all her relatives return home urgently, including Jane. She wants to get away from the proud Mr. Darcy as soon as possible. The Bennet sisters will find out that an honored guest is coming to dinner with them. This is the Bennet's cousin, Pastor Collins. He is the only male heir in this family, which means he's the one who inherits the house after Mr. Bennet's death. Over dinner, Pastor Collins announces that his patroness is the legendary Lady Catherine de Bourgh. She is one of the most famous zombie hunters. Pastor Collins reports that he needs a wife. He wants to propose to Jane, but Mrs. Bennet lies that her daughter is already engaged to Mr. Bingley. She advises Collins to choose Elizabeth, but Pastor has one condition. His future wife must replace her swords and daggers with pots and pans. Someone is shouting for help from the forest. An overturned carriage lies on the road. The Bennet sisters run there with guns in their hands. Their neighbor, Mrs. McGregor, gets out of the carriage. Alas, she's already a zombie. I have to shoot. The Bennet sisters go to the city and notice a whole squad of armed soldiers there. They meet a charming lieutenant named George Wickham. Mr. Bingley appears in town and announces that he will arrange another big ball. Elizabeth feels great sympathy for Lieutenant Wickham and invites him to the ball. The lieutenant confesses to the girl that Mr. Darcy hates him very much. Soon, a large festive ball is being held at Mr. Bingley's estate. Elizabeth meets Mr. Wickham there and is very happy about it. However, they are interrupted by Pastor Collins. He asks Elizabeth to dance. The girl must agree, so as not to anger her relative. But this is one of the worst dances of her life. Mr. Darcy also invites Elizabeth to dance, but Pastor Collins talks so much that Elizabeth manages to escape. Mrs. Bennet boasts that her daughter Jane will marry an incredibly rich aristocrat. Darcy hears these words and gets incredibly angry. Soon, zombies invade this ball. Elizabeth engages them in battle. One of the zombies manages to tell the girl that a man let them into the ball. But Mr. Darcy intervenes in the fight, and the girl does not have time to hear the traitor's name. Jane learns that Mr. Bingley has left his home and returned to London. Elizabeth understands that Mr. Darcy is to blame for this. It was he who made his friend believe that Jane only needed his money. Pastor Collins says he needs to talk to Elizabeth alone. He confesses his love to her and offers the girl to become his wife. The girl refuses and runs away from home. Mrs. Bennet is furious, but Mr. Bennet praises his daughter for making the right decision. Elizabeth runs into the forest and notices that the birds in the sky are afraid of something. Lieutenant Wickham appears next to him. He wants to tell the girl his secret. They go to a small church located on the outskirts of the city. But this is not an ordinary church. There are only zombies here. At the same time, they behave quite normally. The fact is that these zombies dine on pig brains and thus do not hunt living people. Wickham believes that people can live peacefully alongside these new civilized zombies. This means that the war can be stopped. In the afternoon, Elizabeth's best friend Charlotte comes to Elizabeth and informs her that she will marry Pastor Collins. She turned 25 years old, and she no longer has a chance to find a good husband. Charlotte asks Elizabeth to go with her and Pastor Collins to visit Lady Catherine de Bourgh. The most famous zombie hunter lives in a gorgeous palace with lots of expensive paintings. She has a daughter, but she is a very weak and unhealthy girl. Mr. Darcy appears in the palace, and then Mr. Wickham. Over lunch, the lieutenant tells Lady Catherine de Bourgh that you don't have to fight zombies. You can be friends with them or at least make a truce. This will help Britain save a lot of money and make it a rich and prosperous country again. Mr. Darcy does not want to listen to this and demands that the guards drive Mr. Wickham out of the palace. At night, Elizabeth secretly meets with Wickham. The lieutenant says that it was Mr. Darcy who convinced Mr. Bingley to return to London and leave Jade. Wickham suggests that Elizabeth run away with him, but she refuses. The next morning, Mr. Darcy comes to Elizabeth's house and declares his love for her. He offers the girl to become his wife. Elizabeth does not accept his proposal because Darcy has ruined the happiness of her beloved sister Jane. The man does not deny this, and Elizabeth decides to beat him up. She's even ready to use her sword. This is a very fierce duel, during which our heroes say a lot of bad words to each other. When Darcy leaves, the girl begins to cry bitterly. Later, Mr. Darcy writes Elizabeth a letter of apology. He regrets separating Jane and Bingley. He also reveals the whole truth about Wickham. It turns out they were friends, but Wickham used zombies to take Darcy's father's life. Then he squandered part of his inheritance and blackmailed Mr. Darcy, demanding as much money from him as possible. He even tried to escape with Darcy's sister, 15-year-old Georgiana, but Darcy managed to stop them. Elizabeth learns that London has been attacked by zombies and has taken over one of the largest palaces. They began to behave very sensibly, as if they were being controlled by some experienced commander. Soon, another terrible news awaits the girl. Wickham ran away with her sister Lydia. Among Elizabeth's notes, Lady Catherine de Bourgh arrives and asks what kind of relationship she has with Mr. Darcy. The fact is that the Countess wants to marry her sick daughter to Darcy. Lydia Catherine de Bourgh forces Elizabeth to fight her best fighter. The girl defeats her opponent with great difficulty. After that, the Countess decides to take the Bennet family to her estate. Elizabeth and Jane travel to London in search of Lydia. They end up in a large military camp. There, Mr. Bingley tries to execute a group of captive zombies, but one of them grabs the aristocrat by the scarf. Mr. Bingley saves Jane in time. Mr. Darcy is fighting bravely nearby. Elizabeth joins him. After the fight, the girl tells Darcy about what happened to Lydia. The man decides to save her family's reputation. He arrives at St. Lazarus Church, rescues Lydia, and learns the terrible truth. Wickham uses civilized zombies to create a large army and capture London. With their help, this insidious lieutenant plans to rule the whole country. To stop the mad Wickham, Darcy gives the civilized zombies human brains, turns them into real savages. During a fierce battle, Darcy wounds Wickham and realizes that this man has also been a zombie all this time. That's why he wasn't attacked by other infected people. Wickham is about to get rid of Darcy, but Elizabeth saves him in time. When Darcy and Elizabeth return and drive across a large bridge, an army of people destroys it to prevent zombies from leaving London. Darcy is injured in this explosion and loses consciousness. Elizabeth tearfully confesses her love to him. Darcy survives and proposes to Elizabeth again to become his wife. This time she agrees and kisses her lover. 2 weddings are celebrated simultaneously. Elizabeth marries Darcy, and Jane marries Bingley. The ceremony is conducted by Pastor Collins. All our characters look absolutely happy, but their joy does not last long, because Wickham is already rushing to the palace with his army of zombies. The war continues,